Pacific Ocean, early morning, June 4th, 1942. The sea is deceptively calm. On the flight deck of the Japanese aircraft carrier Akagi, the day begins like dozens before it. Deck crews move with rehearsed efficiency. Engines idle. Signal flags snap lightly in the wind. Below deck, in the hangar bays, aircraft sit in tight rows. Bombers and torpedo planes packed nose to tail. Fuel lines coiled. Ordnance stacked nearby. Nothing feels urgent yet. Inside the carrier's command spaces, Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo reviews reports in near silence. He is not a reckless man. He is methodical, by doctrine, by reputation, by survival. The plan for Midway has been precise, layered, rehearsed for months. Strike the island, draw out the American carriers, destroy them in a decisive engagement, end the war's uncertainty in the Pacific in one calculated motion. So far, the plan appears to be working. At 0430, the first wave of Japanese aircraft lifts off toward Midway Island. Nagumo watches the last planes disappear into the low clouds. He exhales, not relief, but confirmation. The day has begun exactly as expected. That expectation is the most dangerous thing in the room. Minutes turn into an hour. Reports begin arriving from the Midway strike force. Damage inflicted, but not decisive. Runways hit, installations damaged, defenses still active. Not a failure, but not closure either. Below deck, ordnance crews begin the next step automatically. Aircraft originally armed with torpedoes, meant for enemy ships, are now being reconfigured with land bombs for a second strike on Midway. This is not improvisation, it is procedure. Japanese carrier doctrine demands clarity, one target set at a time. Half measures invite disaster. Nagumo knows this. His staff knows this. Every manual reinforces it. Then another report arrives. A scout plane, late, delayed by launch trouble, finally radios in. Sighted enemy ships, bearing east, distance unclear. Not carriers, not numbers, just ships. The room tightens. Nagumo looks up from the message. This is the moment war rarely announces clearly. Information arrives incomplete, late, and inconvenient. The enemy is somewhere, but not yet defined. If American carriers are nearby, then the planes below deck, now half rearmed, are suddenly vulnerable. Fuel lines exposed, bombs stacked, aircraft immobile. If they are not carriers, then delaying the second strike wastes time and risks losing momentum over Midway. The choice is not dramatic, that's the problem. Nagumo's chief of staff urges caution. Complete the rearming, finish Midway, maintain doctrinal order. Another officer suggests flexibility. Launch immediately with what is ready. Accept inefficiency in exchange for speed. Neither option feels reckless. Neither feels safe. The hangar decks below are now in transition. Torpedoes removed, bombs loaded, aircraft partially armed. The carriers are in their most fragile state, but only temporarily. Time matters. So does discipline. Nagumo is a product of a navy that values control over improvisation. The doctrine saved lives. It won earlier battles. It created the Empire's victories. And doctrine does not bend easily under uncertainty. Another report arrives. The Midway strike leader requests permission for a second attack. Another pause. Nagumo delays. He orders the rearming to continue, then hesitates again when updated reconnaissance suggests American carriers may indeed be present. Orders are adjusted, then reconsidered. Not because Nagumo is indecisive, but because the system around him demands certainty before action, and certainty is evaporating. On the hangar decks, crews work faster now. Sweat replaces routine. Ordnance carts roll back and forth, reversing earlier steps. Aircraft are neither ready for land attack nor naval strike. They are in between. Above deck, the sea remains calm. No alarms, no visible enemy. Just the quiet ticking of time. Nagumo stands in the command space, aware, perhaps for the first time, that the battle is no longer happening where he planned it. It is happening inside the decision loop itself. Midway has not been lost. Not yet. But the margin is narrowing, and the next decision will not allow revision. Aboard Akagi. 07:15 a.m. The command space is still orderly. Voices are low, pencils move, signal flags flutter, but the rhythm has changed. Nagumo studies the plot table again. The American carriers remain unconfirmed, but no longer hypothetical. Somewhere beyond the horizon, steel and aircraft may already be aligning. Below deck, the hangar bays are dense with motion. Ordnance crews reverse work they completed minutes earlier. Torpedoes return to racks. Bombs are unbolted. Fuel hoses snake across the deck. Aircraft are rolled, halted, rolled again. This is the most dangerous phase of carrier warfare. Everyone knows it, no one says it. At 07:28, a second message from the delayed scout arrives. Enemy force now confirmed, appears to include a carrier. The room tightens, not with panic but with calculation. Nagumo looks at his watch. The first strike wave is still returning from Midway. Launching a counterstrike now risks landing congestion. Launching later risks losing initiative. Doctrine offers guidance, but not relief. Japanese carrier operations emphasize mass. Strike with everything, together, decisively. Fragmented launches invite piecemeal defeat. To strike the American carrier properly, Nagumo must wait for the Midway aircraft to return, refuel, rearm, and relaunch as a unified blow. That takes time. Time the Americans may not give him. Another report filters in. American torpedo planes sighted at low altitude inbound. Not many, poorly coordinated, but close. Nagumo's staff debates quietly. The Americans are attacking without mass, violating everything Japanese doctrine teaches. That should be reassuring. It isn't, because it suggests desperation or distraction. Nagumo authorizes defensive measures. Fighters are launched piecemeal to intercept incoming threats. The carriers maneuver, turning into the wind, disrupting deck operations again. Every evasive turn delays launch preparations. Below deck, aircraft remain armed and fueled, but not ready. Above deck, fighters chase torpedo bombers skimming the waves. The Japanese carriers survived the attacks, but at a cost not yet visible. Time. At 10:20 a.m., the shock arrives without warning. Not at sea level, from above, American dive bombers, lost, late, almost out of fuel, break through the cloud cover. They should not be here. They should have missed. They should have failed. But they didn't. The decks of Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu are caught in the exact moment carrier doctrine fears most. Aircraft armed, fueled, exposed. Explosions tear through hangar decks. Fires race along fuel lines. Ordnance detonates where it was never meant to. The order that protected discipline has created vulnerability. Within minutes, the balance of power in the Pacific collapses. Smoke rises, radios crackle, commands fragment. Nagumo does not shout, he does not flee, he watches. The battle is no longer abstract, it is no longer procedural, it is irreversible. The carriers are burning, not because of chaos but because order was applied too perfectly, too late. Midway is no longer a plan, it is a consequence. Aboard Akagi. Just after 10:25 a.m., the fires are not yet uncontrollable. That is the illusion. Damage reports arrive in fragments. Compartments hit, hoses severed, crews lost, but nothing yet sounds like total destruction. In theory, Akagi is still afloat. In theory, she could still fight. Nagumo stands amid smoke that hasn't fully claimed the bridge. His staff waits. No one speaks out of turn. This is the moment Japanese naval culture was built for. Command under pressure. The question is no longer what happened. It is what can still be saved. Messages arrive from the other carriers. Keiga, severe damage, fire spreading. Soryu, hit multiple times, flight deck unusable. Hiryu, still operational. One carrier remains capable of striking back. Doctrine now demands clarity. Nagumo has two theoretical options. 1. Transfer command operations to Hiryu and coordinate a counterstrike while damage control continues. 2. Preserve command coherence, remain with the flagship, and attempt to stabilize what remains of the force. Neither option restores what was lost. Both involve sacrifice. The staff officers understand something instinctively. Whatever is chosen next will not win Midway. It will decide how Japan loses it. From Hiryu, Vice Admiral Yamaguchi requests permission to launch immediately. He does not ask politely, he asks urgently. Every minute matters. American carriers are exposed now, before they reorganize, before they understand the scale of their success. But launching requires clear command authority. Nagumo hesitates. Transferring command in the middle of battle fractures hierarchy. It risks confusion. It violates the very order that defines the fleet. For decades, Japanese naval planning assumed that if doctrine was followed, chaos could be avoided. But doctrine has already failed. The only question is whether Nagumo will acknowledge it. Nagumo decides not to formally transfer command authority. He allows Hiryu to act, but without restructuring the fleet's command logic. It is a compromise, and compromises in war are often worse than mistakes. This decision does not reverse the battle. It does not stabilize the fleet. It does not restore initiative. It merely delays collapse in an orderly way. From this moment forward, Japan can no longer act as a unified carrier force, only as isolated remnants. Hiryu launches her strikes alone. They succeed, partially. One American carrier is damaged, another is threatened. For a brief moment, it seems possible that Midway might still end in something resembling balance. Then the Americans return, focused, coordinated, unopposed. Hiryu is found. She burns. The last intact carrier of the First Air Fleet is removed from the board. The counterstroke has failed. Not because it lacked courage, but because it lacked time, and time was already spent earlier, in quieter moments, on decisions that felt procedural. Nagumo is evacuated. He does not argue. Around him, the fleet dissolves, not in panic but in silence. 4 carriers lost. Veteran air crews gone. Initiative surrendered. The Pacific War has turned, not in a blaze of glory, but in the narrow space between doctrine and adaptation. Midway is no longer a battle in progress. It is a verdict. Pacific Ocean. Late afternoon, June 4th, 1942. The sea is deceptively quiet. Smoke columns rise, but the wind carries them away, thinning the scale of the loss. From a distance, it almost looks manageable, survivable. On the bridges of surviving escort ships, officers scan the horizon, not for enemy aircraft, but for meaning. Reports have stopped escalating. That alone is alarming. Silence in naval combat rarely means safety. It means there is nothing left to coordinate. The First Air Fleet no longer exists as a system. What remains are fragments. Destroyers without carriers, cruisers without air cover, pilots without decks to land on. There is no new plan to debate, no order left to argue over. The Japanese fleet begins withdrawing. Not because a retreat is commanded, but because there is nothing left to advance with. Below deck, survivors are pulled from the water. Many are air crew, men trained for years, irreplaceable in both skill and experience. They are quiet, not defeated, confused. They were promised control of the sky. Instead, the sky erased them. As night falls, the full accounting becomes unavoidable. 4 fleet carriers destroyed, hundreds of aircraft lost. The core of Japan's naval aviation, gone in a single day. This is not a tactical defeat. It is a structural collapse. Japan entered the war believing industrial disparity could be overcome by elite planning, doctrine, and timing. Midway proves the opposite. The Americans can lose ships and replace them. Japan cannot. The imbalance, once theoretical, is now mathematical, and math does not negotiate. Across the Pacific, American commanders begin to understand what Midway really means. Not victory, momentum. For the first time, the Imperial Japanese Navy is reacting instead of dictating. Every future operation will now be defensive, constrained, cautious. In Tokyo, the loss is reported carefully. No panic, no admission, no explanation that fully captures the scale. Because acknowledging Midway means acknowledging that the war's logic has changed, and leaders rarely announce that they are now fighting time itself. Admiral Nagumo survives the battle. So do many of the officers whose decisions shaped it. There are no courts-martial, no public reckoning, no official declaration of failure. Midway is folded into history as a setback. But those who understand carrier warfare know better. The war did not end here. It became unwinnable here. Quietly, systemically, irreversibly. Tokyo, late summer 1942. The city looks unchanged. Trains still run. Offices still open. Reports still move through ministries stamped confidential. On paper, the empire continues to function. Inside a quiet naval office, a junior officer files Midway under a neutral heading. Carrier Engagement, Central Pacific. No red ink, no warning marks, no acknowledgement that something foundational has broken. This is how institutions survive catastrophe. They rename it. The consequences do not arrive as explosions. They arrive as absences. A carrier that cannot be replaced. A pilot cadre that no longer exists. Training schedules that quietly shrink. Operations delayed, not by enemy action, but by capability gaps no one can fill. Japan still wins battles after Midway, still advances, still inflicts losses. But every victory now consumes something irreplaceable. Every engagement costs experience. Every loss compounds. And across the Pacific, American shipyards do the opposite. Expand, accelerate, multiply. The war is no longer about courage or brilliance. It is about time and capacity. Japan has neither. The true shock of Midway does not happen in 1942. It happens later, when Japanese commanders realize that no future battle can restore what was lost. Guadalcanal, the Solomons, Leyte Gulf. Each engagement feels different now. Heavier, slower, more desperate, because the system that once generated advantage now only manages decline. Midway didn't destroy Japan's navy in one day. It removed its future. Admiral Nagumo is reassigned. Others retire. Some die later in the war. There's no single moment of reckoning. No speech where someone admits, "We lost the war that morning." History will say Midway was won by intelligence, by code breakers, by bravery, by luck. All true, but incomplete. Midway was lost because a system built for perfect execution encountered uncertainty and could not adapt fast enough. Doctrine replaced judgment. Procedure replaced initiative. Order replaced awareness. And in modern war, that is fatal. The most dangerous decisions in history are rarely dramatic. They happen in calm rooms, under fluorescent lights, surrounded by professionals doing their jobs correctly. Midway teaches a final, uncomfortable truth. Wars are not lost when plans fail. They are lost when systems refuse to bend. And by the time the consequences are visible, it is already too late.